Yeah. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the press conference with Stephen McGown and his family. It's been a great journey for him, 5 years and 8 months, and for his family. Stephen was in hospital last week. We were expecting him to be released by 2 o'clock on Friday, but the results made sure that he could not come. When they sent me the results, I realized it was the right thing not to send him home. Stephen has been very gracious. I spoke to him this morning at his home. I met him for the first time this morning, and he was ready because he knows of the interest in the story. Although he's not completely well yet, he still has several severe headaches. He decided to come and speak to you people. As I said, I'm not sure how long he'll be able to go on for. We'll take it step at a time. After the press conference, his family, will speak to you one-on-one if you want. If Stephen can manage, he'll answer a few questions after that, but that's no guarantee about that. So please bear with him as we're going along. Before I start, I want to introduce a very important person without whom this all would have never been possible. The man on the extreme left-hand side, his name is Muhammad Yahya Diko. He's a person of Mali origin in South Africa. On 23rd June 2015, when Gift of the Givers agreed to take on the case, I made an announcement in the media to say I'm looking for a person of Mali origin who knows the tribes, who knows the regions, who's prepared to take high risk, who's prepared to go into the region and meet with people who can lead to the captors. And within 2 hours, he walked into my office. He's been to Mali 9 times. At some point, his wife was ill, his children were ill, but he stayed there, and he went nevertheless. He hasn't taken a cent, he hasn't asked for any compensation, he hasn't asked for any money. His only desire was to help get Stephen and Johan Gustafsson out. He's been committed. He's supposed to go for 5 or 6 days. He lands up there for 3 weeks or a month. He's been the silent person, the real reason why Stephen is here. His aim was to find the captors, to find the negotiators, to find the people we can talk to. Because in the first 4 years, up to 2015, nobody found the captors. Within 6 weeks of his presence inside Mali, the captors made contact with him to the negotiators. And that's how the story commenced. We went right till the end, up to June this year, when we handed it over to the government, because the last phase could not be done by us. The last phase could be successful or it could have failed. The captors told us, to the negotiator, that in this process, you need the government of South Africa, you need the government of Mali, because there has to be an agreement with them if we do come to some kind of arrangement, that a military escort may need to go out, you may need a helicopter, you may need a private plane, you'll need passports for Stephen, so all those kind of things cannot be done by you. You've initiated the process, the last process is with us and them. It may work, it may not work, but that's what you have to do. When we finished off our last conversation, we emphasized to them that we want Stephen released on compassionate grounds. His mother had passed on, he was alone. Jacques, the Dutch hostage, was released. Johan Gustafsson, the Swedish hostage, was released, and Stephen was alone. And we pressurized them to release him unconditionally. The elders at some point within Al-Qaeda had agreed to release him unconditionally, but the younger ones rejected that. They said, no, it's not within our system. What happened in the end, I don't know. I have no idea about that. But we are welcome to ask any questions. But now I'll leave the floor open to Stephen. I'll allow you to rather ask the questions instead of him giving a story, because we don't know what you want. You ask the questions, we'll take a few at a time. You say the company you are from, your name, and you ask the question. If Stephen can answer it, he'll answer it. If he can't answer it, he'll just tell you no. Please understand, and don't press for him to answer what he cannot answer right now. He says he hasn't absorbed everything yet. He's only been home a week. He's trying to adjust with his family. He's trying to understand what's going on in South Africa and in the world. And he also spent some time in hospital. So really, he has had very little time to find out what's going on in his surroundings. He still has to absorb the fact that he's home after 5 years and 8 months. So this is going to take a long process. The press conference should maybe have been held much later, but I mean, the interest is very huge locally and internationally. So you may shoot, give everybody a chance with your questions. Don't ask too many, because I'm sure the questions will overlap. So one question per person, and we can go back the second time. Show of hands, please. Erika, Karen, and Janine.
Eric Gibson from Report. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Can you maybe give us an indication of your last couple of weeks since you've been alone and lived all by yourself and the other guys have been released?
my fellow prisoner, Johan Gustafsson from Sweden, he left the place where we were staying a day before the end of Ramadan. A car drove into our place, took him away, and we did not get to say goodbye. He went off. And I did not actually find out that he had left our particular place until that evening when we had finished fasting for the day. And then one of the mujahideen said, "Oh, shame, he's gone." So I was like, "Oh, right, he's gone, no problem." A month later, on the 21st of July, a car came in, and this is usual business, and started talking to the emir. They then called me over and said, "Well, you may not know, but your fellow prisoner, he's now been released. He's gone back to Sweden, and hopefully you'll be going home soon." So I've heard this story many times over the 5 years, 8 months. So I was, all right, well, this sounds positive. What is the possibility? Is this for certain? And he came out, well, maybe 60%. So I was like, okay, thank you. I've heard this story before. Don't worry. I'm going back to my hut. This is not important. But then they said, no. Well, actually, we're not taking you away with us. You will go away with us in the car. And this is a big thing. So I packed up my stuff. They say, take what's important and take what you don't want to leave behind, which implied to me was, well, you may not be going home. We're going to try, but things might go wrong and you may end up staying here. But anyway, I got in the car, a lot of driving, a lot of car changes. And this was for 2 days. And then ended up in another place very far from where I was. Business as usual, breakfast, lunch, supper, everything's pretty normal. But then some cars came past, and people did not know who were in these cars, except maybe the number one in our camp, the emir in our camp. And then we basically drove out with this car, with one of these cars. A car came past, we jumped on behind them and drove out, and we drove for half a day. We had some aeroplanes, surveillance aeroplanes, doing laps above us, so we tried to hide a bit. And then with that, the driver in my car turned to me and said to me, "You are free, you can go." So I was like, "Yeah, okay, all right." And he said, "Well, if you don't believe me, you can walk, you can go. And then it actually came through like, well, maybe he's not just pulling my leg and joking with me. And then another car came, and I got in that and I drove out and went down through to Gao and hit the tar road. And once I hit the tar road and crossed over the bridge in Gao, then I realized that, well, if they try and take me back, I'm going to jump out the car and run. So they're not going to get me back into the desert. So then I realized that I must be free now. And it was quite a moment. It was, wow. Yeah, difficult to actually understand, comprehend. There've been so many ups and downs over the last 5.5 years. You're not sure who you can believe and who you can't believe. And in the end, you just don't want to really believe, or you want to believe, but you are tired of really coming down with a bang after they tell you that you'll be going home very soon. So this was my last 2 weeks for my release. Yeah.
Karen?
I just think sorry, South Africa is so overjoyed by your return, and in a time where we really just need good news, it's a miracle, and it's so amazing. My first question is in the midst of this situation where you have so much to despair over, how do you not get psychologically or emotionally broken by what you are going through? And second of all, I think one of the most painful things is that your mom passed. And we have footage of her speaking about how much she wants to hug you and kiss you when you come back. And she seemed like an incredible woman. When did you find out about how your mom had passed on, and how that must have been quite a difficult thing for you?
Yeah. Well, to stay positive, I took the whole time in the Sahara, really. I did not want to come home a mess. And I did my best to see the best in the bad situation, in the difficult times. So I suppose you try and find routine, you try and find things that sort of give you an escapism from the situation, like doing a bit of exercise. I was trying to make conversation with the mujahideen to get along with the Mujahideen. I didn't want to come out an angry person and become an even greater burden for my family. I mean, this past period, I think has been incredibly difficult for my family. And the last thing I wanted to do was to come out and be a bigger burden for my family. So I try to see the best in this situation, and be positive and get involved in things that I'm not used to, building things, different foods, the different animals in the Sahara, the bird migration. I'm a big bird enthusiast, so I saw the swallows and bee-eaters migrate backwards and forwards 6 times across the Sahara, and I got a lot of joy from things like this. The difficult part of the Sahara was really that you don't have any information, and as much as you ask, nobody is able to tell you anything, and I'm not sure if they just do not tell you anything or if they're not allowed to tell you. So this was difficult, and then again, not having many books in English, and not knowing Arabic, not knowing French, which I've picked up a bit of this now, and but this was really the difficult stuff, not having any information in English and not being able to contact my family, because I know this must have put incredible pressure on my family. And I've got many responsibilities to come home to, and these were all my promises before I went on this trip. I promised I will be home, I will pick up my responsibilities, I will be there, help the family. And then my 6 months became 6 years. So this was a problem. But now coming home, I suspected my mother may have passed away. I received a letter from the South African government, I think it was, written in August last year. I received it in December last year. And this was a letter to the Mujahideen asking for compassion and to give me my release. Just to give me my release, give me away for compassionate reasons, mentioning that my mother was critically ill and she may pass away very soon. So I was aware of this. They were not aware of this. They gave it to me and I read it, and then I replied to them. They then asked me, what is in this letter? So I told them, and I think they were a bit upset because they were expecting it to cheer me up, but it sort of had sort of the opposite effect. So I suspected this, but I only found out my mother had passed away. This was approximately 10 minutes before arriving home with my father. Yeah, about 10 minutes beforehand. So it was Sunday. So Sunday was information overload. Sunday, I received it. I mean, my mom passed away, but so many other people have also passed away in these 6 years. Family members, friends. And then a bunch of friends have had children, and they're not children, they're big now. And so much has changed this last period. But I mean, yeah, my mom is a big blow. My mom was an amazing lady, amazing. She had so many friends, so sincere, such a loving. I mean, what a role model. She was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And I can imagine my mom going through difficult times, really wanting to see me before she passed away. It's life. It's the way it is. I say I try to see the best in everything. This is the one thing I'm unable to really understand. I can't see much good in not seeing my mother, but all other things I can try and see the positive in this. But I'm sure there's positive in this as well, but this will come out a bit of time, I suppose.
Jenny?
Janine from the SABC's Africa Service Channel Africa, welcome home. I know Kate's mom, so we followed your disappearance from the start, so welcome back.
Okay, thank you.
If I might take you back to the past few years, in general,
yes.
your living conditions, you talked about the hut, you said before your release, business as usual, breakfast, lunch.
Yeah.
What was it like? I mean, it was bad, but what was the physical conditions from day to day, mostly?
The physical conditions, wow, well that sort of varies from winter to summer, but winter, the nights are cold, the days are great. The days are not a problem. But you build your hut, you build a little hut out of grass and sticks, and you may have some cloth that you put over the top of it. It's pretty comfortable, but early days was a big, we had big problems for security reasons. I think the Mujahideen didn't quite know how, what the surveillance airplanes can and can't see. So everything was very strict. You see an airplane, you sit down, you lie down, you want no shadows, you become invisible. But then with time, the Mujahideen learn more, and then things change within this. The winters, the nights are cold. The winds are absolutely freezing. We had a blanket. I had a single blanket. Then I had a second blanket. But the winds blow right through these things, so it's difficult. It's not easy. Our first week when the three of us were taken together, we were chained at night. We had handcuffs, and then we had our ankles chained, so we weren't able to move around. And sometimes they would forget about us in the morning, and you'd be sitting there till 9, 10 o'clock, chained up under your blanket, and like sardines, sort of all three under a blanket kind of thing. But that changed. That changed with time. Then and we were blindfolded. This changed. The handcuffs went and the blindfolds went. The summers. Well, people think it doesn't rain in the Sahara, but this is not actually true. You have the most incredible thunderstorms in the Sahara. And I suppose it's the same as you go and you sit in your garden and you just take on a thunderstorm in your garden. The thunderstorms were not my favorite. You get absolutely sopped. It's generally in the evening at night, so you spend the night pretty chilly, wet, sand in your clothes, sand everywhere. During the day it's not a problem so much. At night it's a bit of a problem, these thunderstorms. But then you have these sandstorms, and they're awesome to see, but it would be nice if you could climb into a car or climb into a house afterwards and not have to actually sit in it. But yeah, it's extreme. It's extreme. It's quite something. Yeah.
My name is Rosie from SABC TV News. Welcome back to the country. I'm sure it must be amazing for you to be back at home with your family. What I want to know is we have general information in terms of your capture. Can you take us through what happened that day and the weeks subsequent to that, how you were taken to the camp? And just a final question. You're back in the country. What are you going to do? What is the plan? You know, what's the first thing you want to do? Do you want to have, like, you know, go have a warm shower? What do you want to do?
Yeah, wow.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, the actual day of the kidnapping, people ask many questions about this, and it's a bit blurry, I must say. Like, if you want to know how many people were there and things like this, these details are all a little bit shaky. But to give a sort of a broad thing, we arrived in Timbuktu in the evening. We spent a night in Timbuktu, and the following morning we were with some guys on a tour bus, if you like. But they were there by boat. They left their tour bus down in Bamako, and a lot of these guys on the tour bus, they went on a tour around Timbuktu. But this was not really. I'm not really into tours, so we're going to just walk around and take a look at what's going on in this place. We stepped out, had a look around, came back, and we walked around for an hour or two, went back to this little hostel where we were staying, and then some guys, I had my back to the gate, some guys then sort of came in, one guy holding a pistol in the air, a guy with a kalash at the gate. I wasn't sure what this was. I thought maybe this is some kind of some police or something like this. And then one of the lady with us, Sharp Riker's wife, she then shouted, "Oh, lie under the table, get under the table, get under the table." So I didn't see what was going on. This was over my left shoulder. So we all sort of lay on our bellies under the table. And then the guy with the pistol came and dragged Shark out. And then Tilly turned to me and said to me, "They're taking my husband, they're taking my husband." And I'm, well, what can I do? They're going to take me, maybe, you know, I'm not sure. And then they came back and they grabbed me and they took me out and they loaded us up in the Land Cruiser, their their Land Cruiser buggy. And this was the three of us, the Swedish, the Dutch guy and myself. And then we had a German gentleman with us. And my deepest condolences to his family. He was shot. He was killed at the gate. I saw he was moving backwards. He fell over. He tripped with the mujahideen trying to get hold of him, and he fell onto the ground. And I saw them turn their Kalashnikov to the ground, and I heard 3 bangs. And I said to the guys next to me, I said, I think they've killed Martin. And I mean, it was all a bit of a surprise, but I didn't see it, but I thought. And then it turned out later, a day later or a week later, they said, yes, we killed him. So that was, everything is a very up in the air. You don't know what to expect. You're not sure where you are. You're not sure if you're next. You're not sure if you're going to lose your head. You're not sure what's going to happen. It's something. It's really quite something. But after this, things sort of settled. Well, things didn't settle down, I suppose, probably for the first year, I suppose. I suppose it's like changing a job. It takes 6 months to get your head around something, but this situation takes much longer to get your head around something, to actually understand the situation. We didn't understand the language, didn't understand the environment, didn't understand. I mean, one of our first experiences was when we were actually put into a camp. They brought in a goat and slaughtered it, and I was like, okay, well that could be me next, and I'm probably the first of the 3 to go because of my British ties. So this it's just information overload, confusion. Yeah, this is it.
What are you going to do?
Now, well, the plan was to join my dad. So hopefully I can get into the family business. This is the plan. But it's still, and this was one of my big guilt things when I was in the desert. I was like, I'm meant to be going home to help my dad. My dad's retiring, and now I'm really putting my dad in a position here, along with my wife and my family and everybody actually. But this is the plan. So much has changed. I mean, people talk, and I think every third word I don't understand. It will be some new place or new word or new application on an iPhone or new something. I'm absolutely in the dark here. But this week, I mean, this week, things are starting to settle. So I'm beginning to see what's going on here. But I don't doubt in a month or so everything should be beautiful. Everything should be perfect. Hopefully. Yeah.
Stephen McGown, BBC News. Why do you think you were kidnapped? Is it because you have British ties, or just because you happen to be there? And also, I had the story about the swallows, and what kept you going through each day for all that period? And what's the most surprising thing that you found, apart from the passing of your mom, of course, as you arrived back in South Africa? Thank you.
Okay. Wow. Sorry, that first question, my mind is not quite right.
The passport, I think. The passport British. Were you captured because we're British?
Oh, okay, yes, sorry, apologies. Well, the story goes as such, the story that I've heard is that, the whole world, through the United Nations, is now challenging Islam and challenging the Muslims through the fighting in Afghanistan, through the fighting in Syria and Iraq. I suppose all of Africa is involved with the African Union. Basically, within the Quran, you need to fight people closest to you to start off with, but ultimately, God's religion should govern the world, and anybody challenging the religion should be fought. And this is why I was captured. I do not believe that they knew my nationality when they caught me. They obviously would have really preferred me to have been British. This would have been first prize, and it took a long time for the British status to fall away. I mean, I think my family were pushing for this, and I was pushing for this, because it's dangerous to be British. I think American, French, and British, these are the top 3. So, yeah, they kidnapped me because I just was non-Muslim. Basically, this is it. And I suppose they want prisoner exchanges, or they want money. But I'm not certain how I don't know the details within this. I'm not sure how I actually got released. But this is what they would like. Maybe it would be on compassionate grounds. I'm not certain. Yeah. So they would kidnap anybody, I understand, because if they are non-Muslim. If you're a Muslim, I mean, I've been told if you're a Muslim, you can go anywhere in the whole world and you will not have a problem with the Mujahideen. No problem. Doesn't matter what color you are, what language you speak, nothing matters. If If you are Muslim, you can go anywhere in the world and you will not have a problem. Yeah, that's that. What was the second question?
The swallows and how keeps you going?
How you keep going day by day? Well, it's not so easy. I can't say you do keep going day by day. Sometimes you sleep a lot, and sometimes you don't eat much, and sometimes you're just absolutely miserable and you want to fight with everybody. But ultimately, like I said earlier, my reason for pushing on was because I did not want to come home a mess. I did not want to come home complicated, angry, and become a burden for my friends and my family. I wanted to come home a better person, really. I wanted to come home a better person with these experiences and be able to add value to my family and my friends and not be a problem. But to do this, exercise was important. We weren't always allowed to exercise. A lot of the times the exercises were cancelled. I'm not sure certain why, if they thought people would be trying to run away or if they were worried about surveillance aeroplanes and leaving tracks in the sand or what this was. But a lot of time, exercise was cancelled, and then you need to find something else. Then you sit by your hut doing I was doing star jumps by my hut, trying to just break a bit of a sweat and trying to just keep moving, because I've got big back problems, lower back problems, and this played up throughout the period. I mean, there was one time I couldn't really stand up for, I think, 4 or 5 days, and it was a big worry, because when you change camps, when you move to a new area, these guys can drive. These guys know how to drive, and these Land Cruisers are tough, and you drive at full speed and you bounce over everything, and it does really bad things for your back. So there were times when I was very concerned about my health regarding this. So exercise helped. Exercise was good. It gets your mind off things. Like I say, it was difficult to distract yourself with Arabic or French, because I don't really know Arabic and French. My Arabic, nobody will understand me when I speak Arabic. So yeah. But it's just got to be positive. Be positive and push on. That's really it. You're not sure when it's coming to an end. I was told, a few of the Mujahideen said to me, "You are very fortunate to be kidnapped here. You're very fortunate. You could be in jail. This is better than being in jail." And I did not really understand this, because in jail, well, you can have books in your language, you can see your family, you can use a telephone, you don't sit in these thunderstorms, and you also know you are there for 5 years, or 4 years, or 20 years, but you have a definite number in your head. I was in the dark with absolutely everything. I had no idea what was what and when things would come to an end, or how my family was, or nothing, really, nothing. Yeah.
Hi, Amanda Watson from The Citizen. Maybe it's time to lift the mood a little bit. Are you going to be keeping the hair in the beard?
I think the hair's quite funky, but I'm not so sure my wife thinks so. Well, I haven't given this much thought. I see everybody seems to be growing beards these days. All my friends have got beards, so maybe I fit in fine with this. But I don't know. I do not know. I do not know what's going to happen with this. Sorry. Yeah.
Afternoon, it's Wisani Makubele from SABC Radio News. There were times when some videos of yourself were released where you were speaking. What was going through your mind around that time? And I know you said you tried to stay strong, but apart from your family, what is the one thing that you missed about home? Thank you.
Well, with the videos, with regard to the videos, we were pretty much told the situation. We were being told, well, now, with regards to the negotiation, it is this, that, and the rest that is taking place. So we would like you to come out. Hello, my name is Stephen McGown. I was kidnapped in Mali the 25th of November 2000. Which, this was your standard opening. Then please, a message to your government, thank them for help. And then a message to your family and thank them for help, and you can send them a small message. So this was really the standard thing. If it started getting a bit more creative, then we would be told, you need to take it down this route. This is what we want to push for. Maybe, for example, Burkina Faso and one of the Arab states are now looking at getting involved. So you need to thank them and things along those lines. So we were really led down the road of what we should be saying. Sorry, that second part of the question, I forget.
Aside from your family, what was the one thing you missed about home? What were you really looking forward to at home?
Freedom, really. You know, I was looked after very well. I had clothes, I had food, I had. When I was ill, they would bring medication, limited medication, but they would bring Panado or things along this line. But at the same time, you know, and making the best of a situation, I would try and joke and get along and what have you, but you always knew you were a prisoner. You were always very apparent. If you ask one too many questions, well, you get put back in your place, or you just get blocked. And you always know, and it's irrespective of age. I may be dealing with a man who's maybe 50 years old, for example, or maybe dealing with somebody who's maybe 18 years, for example. But you always know that you are at the bottom of the food chain. You are. So freedom, you know, I can look at the birds and I can walk around the hall a bit. But if you walk maybe 50 meters too far, you're aware of it. They are. You stay here. There's none of this. So freedom, being in charge of yourself, I suppose.
My name is Susan and I'm with AFP. Stephen, welcome back home. I'm just wanting to ask a question about religion. Did they get you to convert to Islam, or you just went with the flow of things?
Well, before the desert, I was a Christian, and I was at Christian school. I mean, I'm a God-fearing person, so I do believe. They did not force me to enter into Islam. I entered in on my own accord. Yeah, this is it.
So you're gonna stay Muslim now, or you're gonna go back to Christianity?
I see many very good things in Islam. Many things which I like. I've learned everything in Arabic, so I probably have big gaps in my knowledge. I see many good things in Islam, but I see also many things which don't make sense to me. So I will continue reading up on this and finding out more about it.
Sarah Carter, CBS News. How was your health when you got back? We obviously were here last week and you were health. Did you find out you were sick with illnesses throughout that were diagnosed recently, or where are you at?
Yeah, apologies for standing you up last week. Yeah, my health. Well, I've been eating rice and spaghetti and pasta for 6 years, so anything beyond that has been quite a shock to the body. I think actually before I even left Mali, I was having a bit of a fever, and that may have been from just eating sort of strange foods. Having been back here, I was having fevers and a lot of sweating and what have you, and then because of the place where I've come from, we went up to the hospital and I spent a couple of nights up there. Subsequent to that, I've had quite heavy headaches. But these are thankfully now settling down. My head is very fluffy and wishy-washy, so if my answers are not particularly good, I apologize for that. But my back was a big concern when I got back. It may have been because my lower back, I was walking around the house, but crippled. This may be because it's so cold, actually, but also it may have been because of this meningitis, encephalitis virus, which apparently I picked up. But things are getting better, and now, hopefully now that I can start moving about, things will get better quickly, hopefully.
One last question. The individuals that held you over the time, did you get to know any of them particularly well and come to, not understand, but come to see things for why they were doing what they were doing?
Well, get to know some of them well, yes, certainly. We were sort of rotated on a 2-monthly basis between groups. And so over 6 years, I don't know how many months that is, that's a bunch, you see many of the people over and over again. So you can sort of form a relationship with some of these guys. They like to joke around a lot and horse around a lot, and that distracts you. So you can get involved in that, and so I got to know some of them pretty well. Got to know some of them pretty well. But then again, you then ask them a question, which may be like, "So guys, what's happening with my release? Is anything coming off here?" And then things get shut down. So they definitely there's There's the boss and there's the not the boss, and I certainly was not the boss with respect to this. But you see them many times. I mean, I probably saw guys 6 or 7 times. That would be over a year's worth of meeting them. 2 months, for 2 months, 6 times. So that's 12 months, whatever. So you get to see guys quite a bit. But also there are many new faces that come through, and more recently so. More recently there have been many new faces. Many Tuareg, many Bamarea, many Fulani, which was not so much 6 years ago. 6 years ago were mostly Arabs and Tamashek. Now there are a lot more of the guys from the south coming through.
And they didn't tell you why it was a change, or they didn't explain why they were involved?
Oh, no, but it's pretty obvious that it's because the Mujahideen are getting stronger and they're taking on more ground, and they are bringing on new recruits. So they are now bringing on more nationalities, and it's becoming more multinational, this thing. But that's obvious. You can see it. You can talk about it. It's very obvious. It's very obvious. This. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Antoinette. I'm a researcher at Wits, student. Welcome home, but I actually have a question for your dad, who I actually saw here the first day I did research at Gift of the Givers last year. So, Mr. McGown Senior, I just want to ask you to explain why you approached Gift of the Givers, and then also the kind of relationship that you've had with them over the years, and was there ever a point where you gave up hope? Thank you.
Well, I approached, sorry. If I say I approached the Gift of the Givers, because it's a great organization, they've done some tremendous work, and obviously when they went and tried to get Pierre Corky out and Yolanda came out, I knew that I had to go further than government. I actually said to government at one stage, I need an independent negotiator, because they were stonewalling us and simply saying things are happening behind the scenes. And I couldn't see it happening behind the scenes. It just didn't. So we went on our own through various other people, and we got taken for a ride. You pay, you pay, you pay. And eventually we used a question: if your man has seen Stephen, he must come back here with the name of his last dog. And of course then it all just dried up. And then, as I say, we phoned Imtiaz, and he has already told you about the problems, that they weren't in that area. But he said, no, we are going to go and get your son out. And I think you went to your teacher, and the teacher said, yes, this you must have as a mission, get these chaps out. So Imtiaz has never given up on us. He's really strived. Yes, we did hit a bit of a wall when Yahya was up there, and it turns out when he said, I'm up here to talk, and they said, but why are 2 of you talking? And he said, no, it's just me for the family. And they then turned to him and said, no, but there's a government in Bamako. And it was the Swedish government. So unfortunately, for all contact with the Swedish government and that, they hadn't let Imtiaz know. They didn't keep us in the picture. And I actually asked the South African government, are we really working together with the Swedes or not? And maybe it's each country tries to get their own son out. But Imtiaz never gave up, and you're here. I mean, even after the government had to take over, and they were instrumental in getting the whole, this whole thing going. It was only after they got involved, otherwise I think, Stephen, you would have had another 4 or 5 years there, up there, which I volunteered to change places, but they didn't want me. But so it got to a stage, I suppose, where Imtiaz came to a point where they said, look, there's certain demands. I said to our government, I don't want to know what demands are. Just bring Stephen and put him next to me. And but when there are demands and that sort of thing, Imtiaz, I think, had to say to them, or Yahya said to them, I've got you 3 governments together now. You've got to work this out. And the result is Stephen's home today.
Hi. Hi, I'm Sue DeCroix from Sunday Times. Thank you so much for doing this. I know it must be a very strange time, and we appreciate it. I wanted to ask about your relationship with your fellow prisoners. I mean, did you know them before and go traveling with them? And while you were imprisoned, you must have spent a great deal of time together intensely. How were there tensions or frictions in that relationship, or, and obviously a lot of closeness too? If you could tell us about that.
Well, it was rocky. It was rocky. But we met on the road beforehand, in Mali, possibly. I forget now. We met on the road beforehand, and we were all on a similar trip. And we went up to Timbuktu, where we were taken. The situation is incredibly stressful. It's like I say, nobody knows what's going on. The three of us, we were all from different countries. We all have different backgrounds. We all have different everything. So it was very, very stressful. And I think, but there were good times and bad times. And for example, myself and Johan, while we were doing exercise, this really was a release. And we did exercise together. We would run together and do some exercise together. And things were great. Things were great. And this really was an escape from the real situation in the Sahara. But yes, and myself and Jacques, I don't know if it was delirium or something, but in the beginning we would laugh a lot, him and I. So much that the Mujahideen would come and say, "Excuse me, it's time to go to sleep. Would you please settle down and go to sleep?" Sorry, yes. And so there were good times and bad times, and it's life. But it's an unusually stressful situation. So I think now things would be exceptionally different. Now things would be perfect. Yeah.
And then Erika.
Okay. Sorry. I wanted to know what you found most surprising, apart from the passing of your mom. I didn't think I had that answer. There's quite a lot has happened in the last 6 years here. So, I'd like to know what stood out for you.
What is most surprising?
For you as you come back here and you realize, this is I don't know what.
Well,
and I also want to ask you, and perhaps this is for the three of you, it's for your dad and for Imtiaz. Did you pay any ransom?
All right. Well, most surprising. My faith in mankind has been absolutely blown away. I cannot believe how many people have supported this situation. How many people have supported my family, supported me, supported people I do not know, people all over the world. Later I would like to do some thank yous, but prayer groups around the world, people I do not know. I think my wife is possibly the most popular person on the planet. so she has mates to the moon and back, and the way they have supported, and it just blows me away. People I do not know. This last week I get home. There's tears from me. There's tears from my mates. Tears from my family. Tears from people I do not know. Tears from people I meet for the first time. I was in the hospital and somebody said to me, "So why are you actually here? Who are you?" And I was like, "Well, I'm the guy from Mali." And her eyes just filled up with tears and she gave me a hug and I was like, "Wow, you don't even know me. This is just..." it blows me away. Wow, South Africans are incredible. Wow. This blew me away. And it still blows me away. I find it difficult to put it into words because my vocabulary is a bit all over the show, but it's quite amazing. Yeah. And the second question was, I don't know.
If we've ever paid a price, I look 10 years older. But I think Imtiaz can answer this. I think we don't. I always said, I don't want to know. When I spoke to government, I said, you hear all sorts of different things, prisoner swaps, money, whatever, through whoever. I said, I don't want to know. You just put my son next to me. That's all I want back.
The answer to that, Milton, is I don't know. But I'll give you the background. There was an article in the New York Times which most of you read. But at the outset, they had asked for 10 million euros each. That was the initial request. We told them, you guys are crazy. Do you know what is euros in rands? So they said, okay. When you speak to them, they keep quiet for a while and then they come back. That's why it takes so long. Because the message is filtered personal, man to man, not on phone, not on email or WhatsApp. They actually drive to or ride to the person on a horse, and they speak to them in the desert, and they come back. So we said it's crazy. They came back with a second option. They said, okay, 5 million plus 5 million plus exchange of prisoners. Exchange of prisoners could happen from Mali or from Niger. It doesn't matter. So I said, look, you are now asking us to involve the government to release prisoners, which the population may not be happy about. That may cause turmoil to the government. That's not possible. And as for the 5 and for 5, it makes no difference. We don't have that kind of money. I said, as a rule, we as an organization, I'm talking to them now, don't pay ransom money. That's a rule. You watch my website, you've seen, you know everything about us, and you know we took out other hostages without paying any money. It's exactly getting the prisoners exchange is between two governments. We can't do that. And I said, we don't have the money. A few months passed on. They came back again, they said, okay, no money. Keep the 5 million, 5 million. We don't want the money. Just give us the prisoners. So I said, but I just told you we can't do that. That's not in our hands. It went quiet for a while. Nothing happened. But all the time in that discussion, I said, compassionate grounds. No, their family got no money. They're African. What have you got against Africa? This is an African. They said, but what about the Swedish? The Swedish got a lot of money. I said, the Swedish may have a lot of money. The government may have a lot of money, but Gustafsson's family don't have a lot of money. You're talking about a family or a country. The country, and you say, and I told them governments don't pay. So they kept quiet about that. Eventually, it came down to, we want 5 million for the Swede and 4 million for the South African. And I said, sorry, we don't have the money. If we can't go any further, Juan and Stephen are going to stay with you for the rest of their lives, because the families cannot pay. I'm sorry. And then they told me at that point, you need to pass the message on, to the governments. They told me that a little earlier, because they said the governments have to get involved. And the word they use, not in English, but in their language when they speak to Yahya every time, they said you got to follow the procedure. And they kept telling us about the procedure. Your government got to talk to the Mali government. Your state security got to talk to the Mali state security. You have to have the embassies involved. You have to make arrangements for passports. You have to get ready with a private plane, as I mentioned earlier. You may have to send a helicopter. We may just leave him somewhere in the desert. And to make sure that no other tribe takes him or he doesn't get involved in some shooting, and to make sure that we've kept our end of the bargain, whatever the bargain is, you may have to send a helicopter to fetch him. So those things you can't do. Eventually, from all these options, I said, look, compassionate grounds is the only thing we can do. In December 2015, they came back to me. They said, you must go to Qatar. You must put a word in Qatar, and maybe they can help you. They said, Qatar helped other countries, so maybe they can help you. So I tell Yahya, go to Qatar. We didn't have a relationship with the King of Qatar. So, but through our network, we found Qatari organizations. And we went to them, and Yahya went. He waited in the hotel. The other thing is, if they tell you they're meeting you at 4 o'clock on a Monday, they come Tuesday, 8 days later. So you wait. So when he goes, he tells his family he's going for 4 days, he comes back after 1 month. Because you don't know when they're going to see you. It's their own security. He gets to the hotel, he waits all week. He says, nobody called me. Then he calls, he tells me, I got a call now. And the other thing, we had to make a video. Malcolm had to, and his family had to say in the video, please, King of Qatar, help my family. And Victoria and the Gustafssons had to make the same video. So we made the video, they gave it to us, and the video Yahya took to Qatar in 2015. And he handed it over to when I say hand over, the call came, come downstairs with the video. So he goes downstairs, there's a car that comes past, he doesn't see the guy in the car. The guy says video. Like a movie. He just takes the video and puts it in the guy's hand, and the guy disappears. Doesn't speak to him, not hello, video, and gone. We made copies of the video and gave it to organizations we know are related to the King's charity. They said, look, we know of the situations, maybe we can help, maybe we can't help. And throughout the 2 years, the only constant word was, there is no guarantee. In everything, there is no guarantee. So they take the video and they said, if you can get help, you'll hear from us. Or something may happen, or you may get a call. December 2015, up till today, we didn't get a call. I informed the government, I said, look, the best thing to do is to go via Qatar. Whether they can help or can't help, I really don't know. So, whether a ransom was paid, whether there was prisoner exchange, whether it was on compassionate grounds, or whether Qatar played a role, I can't tell you that. But the article in the New York Times is completely wrong. Because in no way, in the 2 years, did we engage the French at all, the French government. Yes, I met the French government. They came here some time ago, but to do with the hostage they had in Yemen. They wanted more information about the hostage in Yemen. And because we got officers in Yemen, we could give them information. And on Friday, of course, they phoned to congratulate us. that Stephen is out. But we've never had any relationship with them in 2 years. The South African government, for all my knowledge, didn't have any relationship with the French either. In fact, specifically, the captors told an intermediary that before we start, you must know that if you have anything to do with the French, these negotiations are over. We're not going to do anything. And the article sort of alleged that one of my guys took the money across. Now in this business, you build a relationship with one person. If you change the person, the negotiations are gone. They build a trust and relationship with one person only. The only person the captors had trust in via the intermediary, because we don't meet the captors, you meet the intermediary, is Yahya. And if the money had to go with us, he had to deliver it personally. They don't trust anybody else, because then they think it was spying. Yahya hasn't left South Africa in the last 4 months. So I don't know where that story came from. Erika? Oh.
At any stage, did you fear for your life? Did they threaten to harm you or kill you at any stage? Or did it never reach that point?
Well, once we were kidnapped, very early on, the emir of Acme, Yahya, he said, "We are not going to harm you." But, you know, talking amongst us 3 prisoners, you know, we possibly, this is not the truth. You know, we feared for our lives. There was one. Well, I could say there were three days, 3 experiences, 3 separate experiences where I thought I wouldn't be around the following day. Where your brain takes you into another place and seconds are long and you're numb and early on. That was probably in the first 3 months. First 3 months, things were very unstable, and I thought it could possibly be over.
Sorry, Karen again from ENCA. You've spoken about the fact that you didn't have any information while you were held captive. Now it's been 6 years. Oscar Pistorius got convicted of murder.
Yeah.
You know, Nelson Mandela passed away. And I'm not sure if you exposed yourself to the vote of no confidence, but it wasn't pretty. So I mean, how are you digesting all this stuff? Are you just Googling things, or are you like actually? Because every day in South Africa something's happening. Yeah. How are you gonna process all this stuff?
I don't know, but things are settling down. I've had a lot of time sort of being horizontal because of this headache now. So I've been surfing the net a bit, looking at a few news channels. And my mates have been chatting to me, and I've got many questions. So it's just basically word of mouth, I suppose. Things are coming back relatively quickly, thankfully. But yeah, I mean, we had a radio for a very brief time in the Sahara. So we'd listen to the BBC Africa, and then people would talk and give us some stuff, but very basic news, very basic news. Frank Sinatra also passed away, I understand. And Scooby-Doo. So, George Michael. I didn't hear. I don't know about George Michael. David Bowie. Oh goodness. Yeah, this is.
Anyone who hasn't asked a question yet who wants to speak? Okay, you can go back.
Stephen, supposing things get normal and the Sahara is no more, there's no more Al-Qaeda or whatever, would you think of going back, just to go back and see the place again one day?
Supposing things are normal?
Yes.
Well, supposing things are normal, I could probably dig a well and slaughter an animal and build a hut. I could basically build a city there probably now with the skills I've picked up. But go back, I mean, I've seen it. There are many places, many other places I would like to see before going back to the Sahara. But the Sahara is beautiful. So if anybody wants to go to mine.
Anybody else?
If I may ask Yahya, how are you feeling after this whole process? I mean, first of all, how did it begin? How did you make contact with people? And how has it panned out for you now?
Doctors just tell them many things about our mission. I'm very happy expecting to get him in the desert in the Sahara, and they beat him today in Johannesburg. I'm very happy for that one. And they thanks God, and they thanks the gift of the givers for everything. Otherwise, we couldn't be here today. No, in the beginning, I got the hope we will find him one day. Both of them, not only him and Gustafsson also. I'm always telling his father is to just be patient and be strong. Even the mother also, I'm telling her, and even the wife also. I get like some confidence. We will find him. We will find them one day. And since the start, it was miraculously, I came in the mission with for the Giver, like Dr. just explained. And I never lose hope to find them one day. And there was the time when I was just closer to them. I even tell the father, no, they can't. I feel I was in the area where they are. No, the risk is very high, and I couldn't go forward. They just give me don't give me a chance even when they are here. No, it's a big stories, and I'm very happy like he is here today with us, and he joined his father and the wife and all the family. And it thanks also everybody, all the South Africans, all the world is like he say, to help us morally, to support us, give us what we done. It's great. Especially Uncle Alauddin, he used to take me to the airport with Rose. She's sitting here in the night, sometimes night flight, and it's sometimes when I come back, I don't come with him. It's sad for myself. No, I know we are pushing it. It's a procedure. They must get your trust. They control us also to see when we are the right people who's coming from the family, from the government, to see when we are not just the people who's talking. They do all this control like an exam, and we pass all this exam before they give us the first proof of life. It's meaning we are not just coming to disturb them. Always when I'm there also, they try to tell me, no, they are okay, they are in good condition, they are treating them, they are eating, they play together, and just keeping it and pushing the government to help you. They are like an NGO, we can't finalize everything. It's definitely, we get the chance to put the government together, and the result is also today, what we have it today. Thank you. I think so.
Just to clarify one point.
Okay.
Just to clarify one point that you may not have caught, he said we were close to them. In one of the trips, he was in an area right in the north. And when he went in, the tribal leaders told him, you know, the guy standing next to you may be Al-Qaeda. And who knows that Stephen and Johan may be around the corner from you. That was how close he got. And at that point, from the body language of the people he was speaking to, he realized that they may be, maybe not around the corner, but somewhere in the area where he was. And of course, he couldn't go any further because it was beyond bounds for him. So that's how close he was taken. The point being, you had to build trust with them. If you didn't have the trust, or you did anything wrong to break the trust, the negotiations would have been cut, and his own life would have been in danger. So we had to play by the rules at all points. And Yahya was admirable. He took the risk in many, many ways. At one point, when they were moving the area, the French troops were coming. And the driver was going directly towards the French troops. And they were shouting the loud hailer, all traffic was move out of the way. He, in a panic, told the driver, you can't go in the same route, you have to move out into the bush. And the driver couldn't understand. Had he gone a few meters forward, the missile would have hit his car. He would have been killed in that. And he had a few narrow experiences like that. And the last trip, when we went to get the video in January this year, they told us, come back. We give you a new proof of life video. But then there was tremendous fighting, and he got stuck. He went to a house where we took some gifts for Stephen and Johan. The family gave gifts. He took it to that house. A few hours later, that house got hit with a bomb. So he had a few nasty experiences, but he never gave up. He always went back, and he said, we will get them out. So, well done, Yahya. Take the microphone.
Sorry, I'm at the back here. Yiham, I just would like to ask you, Dr. Suleiman said within 2 hours you were ready to go in and negotiate to help get the captives out. Why did you decide to take this on and continue all these years?
Okay. Yes, it's true. I get the news from 702. And Dr. MC is speaking, and they are looking for the Malian or somebody who can help them and tell all the story. It was very funny for me to be kidnapped in Mali. I know Mali, we are a peaceful country, and also he was a tourist. That one is for me. It's in Islam we respect too much our guest. You can be some guest and be kidnapped. That one I feel very bad at it. I know Timbuktu, I'm from that area, and I think maybe I can help them. I just take the commitment like that, and I got one of my friends from Morocco who take me straight away to, I told him, he take me to Chief of the Jivar office. From there I meet Uncle Alauddin for the first time, and I explained to him, yeah, I think I can help you. We start like that, yeah. After when he called Dr. Imshai, he was not around in the office. He passed the phone. He tells me, yes, this man he can help us. From that one, I see. Maybe this question, they are good people. Maybe we can do inshallah together. Yeah, it's like that.
Excuse me. Good day, everyone. My name is Johnny Sai. I'm with African News Agency. Just to inquire, Stephen, you said you don't want to come back home with a burden, and you seem happy. My question is, would you forgive? What's your feeling on the where you kept it for 6 years? Do you think at some point you'd forgive, maybe forgetting something else, but do you think you would forgive your captors after some time? Or now have you forgiven them? Thank you.
Well, 6 years is a long time. A lot has changed. But I don't want to harbor resentment. Forgive or forget. I don't know if it's more about forgetting and just putting it behind me and moving on than actually forgiving. I can be honest. I'm angry about my mother. I'm angry that I was not released prior to this, because they were aware that my mother was sick. They were aware of this, and to miss my mother by 2 months, I'm angry about this. But this must go. I must let go of this. This is not a problem. So yeah, I will forgive. I'll move on. You get one life. So I don't want to carry burdens which are going to just hold me back. So it's okay. It's all right. It's going to be good.
How surprised were you to find that Donald Trump is now the president of the United States? And how surprised were you to find that the UK had left the European Union?
Yeah, Donald Trump, he's quite well known. This was all just stuff, really. This was all just stuff on the trip. The UK leaves the EU. Well, yeah, okay. It's not really going to affect me, I don't think, too much. And Donald Trump, I know he's making. Well, I know from the Mujahideen side, they have two things. He's making many enemies, but they're very pleased because they're saying it's very good for Islam, because there will be more Mujahideen getting into war to fight America. So that is their view. My view, I'm just in the middle. Yeah.
Hi Stephen, I'm Nadeem Naika from You Magazine. You say you converted to Islam. Did the Mujahideen give you a Muslim name?
Yes, my name was Lut.
Lut?
The Prophet Lot. Lut.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Just the last question. There are other people being in captivity in Mali as well. Were they at any stage close to you, or were you aware of them in some way, or didn't your paths cross at any stage?
Before we were held prisoner in Timbuktu in 2012, around October 2012. We were held prisoner in Timbuktu, and just before this was when the Mujahideen had taken. Well, the Tuareg took Gao and Timbuktu, and then the Mujahideen came and they then took it from the Tuareg. We were preparing to head through to Timbuktu, and for about a week we stayed in one place towards the mountains. And while we were there, we saw the three of us. We saw 2 other prisoners. I'm not sure. They may have been French, may have been Spanish, but I understand that they were then released within Timbuktu. Regarding other prisoners, other hostages, I'm aware that there were many, and sometimes the guys talk about them. The Mujahideen speak about them, so I'm aware of them. Sometimes they give some details on where they were caught, how they were caught, etc. But I never came across any of them. It's possible that they were nearby. It's possible, but because we were generally held a fair distance away from everybody else, from sort of the population. They didn't want people to come and find us, so we were generally a bit further away, a bit further north, a bit drier, etc. I didn't see any of these other prisoners. I also understand that there were other people kidnapped and killed while I was there. French journalists towards Kidal and things like this. And I heard all this. I heard all the stories from the Mujahideen. I'm sure there's a flip side, the stories from the non-Mujahideen, whoever. But I never met him. I never met him. Yeah. I was with. There were the 3 of us, Johan, Shark, and myself. And then Shark was then taken from us, and then it was Johan and I, and then Johan was taken from me, and then it was me for an extra month, and then I came home, and this was these were the prisoners I saw and hung out with. Yeah.
Maybe? Yeah. This would have been the last question, okay?
Thank you. My name is Murray. I'm from Netwerk 24. I just want to know, since you converted, do you think there is something good that came of your capture? And I also want to know if you were treated differently after you converted.
Treated differently, most definitely. Beforehand, like I say, there were a couple of moments where I feared for my life, where people were actually giving me the "it's all over," and then and that ended. That stopped immediately with converting. Name calling in Tamashek. I'm not very good at Tamashek, but they thought these names were very funny because they would say this, and then you would repeat after them, and then they would fall apart laughing in the sand. So, but once converted, the guys wanted to wash your clothes for you. You would sit and recite with them in the riverbeds. You would, even when you were a prisoner, they would give you good meat from the animal. You were slaughtering the animal. They would bring you good meat from, for example, a gazelle or something like this. So this is in the Quran. You got to look after your prisoners well. But once converting, things change dramatically. But you're still uncertain if you don't know the Sharia of Islam. You're not sure if this is a game or if this is now the law. You are now safe. And this carried with us for about 2 years, that we were uncertain whether we could still be killed or not. But we were looked after well, and we were often prioritized before themselves with many things. Whatever comes into the camp should be shared out equally amongst all people. This was not exactly the case with everything, because certain things are from a military aspect, and so we don't get allocated a Kalashnikov or anything like this. But when clothing comes, or food comes, or biscuits come, things like this, things get allocated out evenly across everybody. We were looked after well. Is there any good in this? Well, I've certainly learnt a lot about Islam. It's very interesting. There's a lot of good in Islam. I see a lot of good in Islam within the Sunnah of the Prophet, and within the book, it's a very strict. It requires very strict. It has very strict laws, and it requires very strict character, very good character, looking after people, a lot of things like this, and it has opened my eyes. It's given me, it's taken me away from capitalism and shown me a different angle of life, a way look after each other. People are more important than money, things like this. So yes, good things have come from this, but it was 6 years, and it's a big gap that I've now lost out on. Yeah.
Let's finish off.
I would like to just actually thank some people, if I may, just quickly. Well, Imtiaz Suleiman, and Gift of the Givers, Muhammad Yahya. I would still be there today, and if I'm talking to my dad and my wife, I understand that nothing actually got going until Gift of the Givers got involved, and my deepest gratitude to this. It's like I could still be sitting there today, and I could be there for another 5 years, but I'm not, and I'm so deeply grateful for this. So I thank you very, 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 very much for this. Well, like I said earlier, to the South African population, to all my mates, to all my family's mates, to prayer groups not only in South Africa but across the world, and to my fellow hostages, to Johan Gustafsson and Shark Riker, who after their release they came out here and they visited my family and took my family through the stories of how we were being treated and all the rest, and they probably eased a lot of pressure from my family. I thank them all very, very much. I'm incredibly grateful. I believe this would not have come off actually if the South African government and the Mali government did not work together. As far as the negotiation goes, I suppose it can only go so far, and then it requires probably somebody from above to actually close this. So they have my thanks for bringing this to a close. And then my family, to my dad, my wife, my mom, my sister. I can't really understand what they've been through. And I'm ever so grateful. And I know there have been ups and downs and really difficult times, and times when hope must have hit rock bottom, but they never gave up. And wow, I'm so blessed with my family and my wife and my dad and my mom and my sister. I'm absolutely blessed to have them. And well, my mom's in a better place. So, I hope she's smiling down, and I didn't put her through too much before this came to a close. I want to thank you all for today and making this easy for me. This was much easier than I expected, and yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, McGowan family. Stephen was only going to speak for 15 minutes. He needs a clap for going the whole distance. Thank you guys. I've been very fair with your questions. The family are still open if you need to meet them individually. Stephen won't manage. It's just too much for him now. But maybe at some later stage, you guys can make your own arrangements with him to have the bigger story or a separate story, whatever. But right now, he's not ready for that. Stephen, you can walk around. Please don't hassle him. There's meals available for all of you, and you want to talk to the family, you're most welcome. But please give Stephen a break. Just greet him, but no questions now. Thank you very much.
All right, well, that's humanitarian organization, the Gift of the Givers, who were very instrumental in negotiating the release of Stephen McGowan. Giving a media briefing here in Johannesburg, Dr. Imtiaz Suleiman giving details of how Stephen's release actually came about. And Stephen McGowan, in his own words, for the very first time speaking publicly about his ordeal, he recounted the events that led to his capture, which he recalled as just being any ordinary day sightseeing when they were accosted by gun-wielding men. He even witnessed one of the persons in this group being shot dead. He spoke of the uncertainty that came with every day not knowing if he would be beheaded or what would happen to him. And on his release, he says it was so difficult to comprehend that he really would be released, as there had been a lot of back and forths and disappointments pertaining to the negotiations around his release. He says he was, however, overjoyed when he realized that he finally was free. He says he tried to see the best of this situation. He did, however, mention that the most difficult thing about being in captivity was that nobody there tells you or gives you any information, and also not having any contact with his family also took its toll on him. He recounted how the South African government had written a letter begging for his release in August of last year due to his mother being ill, but he only received that letter in December. He was so sad to learn that his mother had unfortunately passed away, and many friends and even family members had also passed on during his time in captivity. And his hardest thing now is knowing he won't see his mother alive ever again. But he did thank all the people all over the world, and especially South Africans and prayer groups across the world who prayed for his safe release. Well, these were just some of the interesting highlights from that briefing. Let's take a quick ad break for now. We're back with more news.